And today's Pet Advice segment is sponsored by University Veterinary Care Center. Well, this week's Pet Advice is so very timely for my family. We have been battling a stubborn cat who wants to be outdoors, but we want her to be an indoor kitty. Dr. Amy Guernsey with University Veterinary Care Center is now joining us. Good morning.
Good morning.
And I know you've probably dealt with clients who have been in similar situations before.
Absolutely.
Cats do well outside. I mean, there are some benefits to that. So let's just start with the benefits first.
So the biggest argument I hear mostly from clients is that my cat wants to go outside. They're interested in what's going on around them. It's fresh air, it's exercise, it's enrichment. Unfortunately, the risks of going outside, especially unattended, in my world outweigh the benefits.
Yeah, we know firsthand how that goes as well, because we had another cat that was an outside cat, or he decided he wanted to be outside, right. And you know, he'd kill the neighbor's birds, or he ended up getting hit by a car. And so
gosh,
those I know are some of the risks. What are some of the other risks of having them outdoors?
So basically, you know, if you think about them being outside unattended, there's potential for them to get into just about anything and us not have an idea of what they're exposed to. So disease transmission either from wildlife or from other cats is a big one. Parasitism, we're talking fleas, ticks, the diseases that they transmit, intestinal parasitism, and then toxin exposure. You know, anything from antifreeze to peace lilies outside. If an outdoor cat presents at my clinic with non-specific signs, it makes diagnosing them with their problem much more difficult because we don't know what they've been around.
I bet. Are there any compromises that can be made?
So if you have a cat that is stubborn and is very insistent about going outside, I do strongly recommend either the time outside be supervised, screened-in porch time, time on a harness or a leash if they tolerate it well, or talking your family into building a catio, which are becoming very popular. But even in those circumstances, we still recommend vaccinating because there's still risk of exposure there, and we still recommend parasite control. The other thing to keep in mind is if they're contained in those scenarios, they're less likely to have a negative impact on the biodiversity of our environment. You know, cats have been documented to hunt small mammals, birds, and reptiles to the brink of extinction.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, and we've talked about catios before in the past, and so kind of explain what that is if people may not be familiar with that. I know you mentioned that your neighborhood, there are several catios.
Yeah. Basically, think of a fancy screened-in porch area, or if you go to the zoo and you see an outdoor enclosure for a big cat like a bobcat or something, it's like that but for a domestic cat, and a lot of times there'll be a communication between that outdoor space and a utility room or some part of the house so that they can come and go as they please, but they're less likely to be a victim of predation and they're less likely to be a predator in that scenario too.
Well, I think it's time for my husband and I to maybe start building a catio.
There you go. Break up the blueprints.
Yeah. Well, Dr. Guernsey, thank you so much for being with us today. And if you'd like more information about University Veterinary Care Center, just head over to universityvetcare.com.